Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ev Talks. My name is Evan Clark, and I'm the CEO of a credit union in Washington, D.C. We do things a little different at my credit union, and my philosophy on things are a little different, and I'd like to share some of those philosophies with you. Over the past two Ev Talks, we've talked about work-life balance and the Great Reconciliation, and a simple question that'll help you with your success. Tonight, I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk to you about something a little more personal. I'm going to talk to you about the most selfish Christmas present you can ever give yourself. And I've got some notes about this because I've talked about this before, so I'll be referring to them from time to time. But I want to share this story with you because I think it's an important one. What I'm talking about when I talk about the most selfish Christmas present of all is something that is so joyous and that will give you happiness for so long that I think it's something that you should consider. And the gift that I'm talking about is forgiveness and reconciliation. And I'm going to tell you a story from my own personal life to illustrate how powerful forgiveness and reconciliation are. Back when I was in college, my parents, they went through a real nasty divorce. And like so often happens in nasty divorces, us kids sided with my mom. And for over 20 years, probably longer than that, I never had any contact with my dad. And through all of that time, I knew something was missing. I knew that there was something that I didn't have in my life. And at times, that knowledge made me a little ornery. Eventually, I came to know that it was the fact that I needed to come to terms with my father. I think in Star Wars they said to Luke, "You've got to come to terms with your father," or words to that effect. Well, it was true for me. So what I did is one time, quite a while ago now, I wrote my dad a letter, just saying hi and telling him a few things. And sure enough, a few weeks later, maybe a couple weeks later, I got a letter back from him. I was kind of hesitant to open that letter, wondering what it had contained. But all it was a guy just like me, sharing a few of his experiences, telling me what's going on in his life. We shared letters back and forth several times, and then the next Father's Day, I called him and wished him Happy Father's Day. And then on his 70th birthday, I showed up on his doorstep and I said, "Dad, I'd like to spend the weekend with you," and wished him a happy birthday. And over the next 2 or 3 days, him and his wife and I, we just had a good old time. Not doing anything so special, just having fun and eating and sharing stories and laughing a lot. And I'll never forget when he took me to the airport at the end of my trip, at the end of my visit, there was tears in his eyes. And I'd never seen my dad cry before because he wasn't that kind of fella. But there were tears of joy in his eyes because he'd never had a birthday like that. And he told me that. He said it was the most wonderful birthday he'd ever had. You know, I'm mighty glad that I come to terms with my father. Because over the next few years, in fact, it was over about the next 15 years, we had a great relationship. And there was something else that happened. All that orneriness that was in me, it disappeared. And it was replaced by joy and love and hope. And I was able to accomplish some really amazing things. Well, at least amazing to me. I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail, and I got my job as the CEO of this credit union. And I married my wife, and we had the wonderful miracle of having a daughter we really love. I'm really proud of. I don't know if any of those things would have been possible if I hadn't reconciled and forgiven my father. Because boy, oh boy, oh boy, if you're holding a grudge, it's the heaviest thing in the world you can possibly be holding. It hurts my back even thinking about the grudge you might be holding against somebody that you may have loved before, but for some silly reason, you don't anymore. Now I'm going to look at my notes for a second because there's a few things I want to share with you about this whole process. First off, I want to tell you something. It takes enormous courage to come to reconciliation and forgiveness with somebody else. Enormous courage. And a lot of times what you have to do is you have to look inside yourself. And when you do, you sometimes might realize that you might have been part of the problem. You might have been a big part of the problem. Or it might have been that the reason that you broke up with this person that you used to love and maybe should be loving now, might be that reason's in the dark, distant past. And it's kind of silly to be holding a grudge about something from the dark, distant past. At least it was for me. So, and then the other thing that you need to do, at least that I did, is I didn't even think about the past. All the past is a hindrance to the present and to the future. At least that's what it was for me. So I didn't even think about that, and we never talked about it, me and my dad. Now let's take a look. There's a couple more things I want to tell you, and then I'll sign off, I guess. Oh, there's one other thing that you need to know. There's probably a lot of things about the other person that used to drive you crazy. Trust me, those things are still there. And trust me, they'll still drive you crazy. Because that other person's probably not going to change. And the fact that those little things drive you crazy probably tells you a little more about yourself than it does about the other person. So keep that in mind, because that's what I noticed. There were things about my dad that hadn't changed at all. And I just took her all in stride. I think that's about it for this Ev's talk. But I want to tell you something that I'm so thankful for. I'm thankful that I decided to reconcile with my dad and forgive him, because it gave me about 15 years with him. It gave our daughter the ability to have a relationship with her grandpa. My dad died about 5 years ago, and I'm so happy that he decided to do what I did, because I had a great relationship with him, and it freed up all of that energy that I had this grudge about something that happened way in the dark, distant past. And that energy I used to do some real special things, like building up this credit union, and most importantly, marrying my wife and seeing the birth of our wonderful daughter and seeing her grow up. So if you're thinking about a Christmas present, Think about the most selfish Christmas present of all, one that will continue to give you happiness and joy. Think about forgiveness and reconciliation. Take care, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.